Hoop Talk. We're back at it again. NBA is going down. We got so much to talk about. Got some job stuff. Got a little bit of words of wisdom, if you will, along the way, and got a few recommendations as always. But we're going to take you on a ride as we do. It'll be a quick show. Try to get in and out. And Adam, what's going on, man? East Coast, you got to be feeling good. Celtics are in the finals. They did lose early Eastern Conference Finals. They did lose to Miami, but they got there. Last we talked, they had to win 2, and they won 2. So we can give it some love on this too.
We can. So let's go back to that. Right,
Yeah.
last time we talked, it was right before Game 7. I did say Celtics by 30, so I was a
You
little
did.
bit wrong. It was
You
Celtics
did.
by 24, but you knew they'd win Game 7. So happy they won Game 7. But man, last night against Miami, that was a not a good game for the Celtics. Not a good third quarter. Really tough to watch if you're a Boston fan.
Yeah, give us your breakdown as a Boston fan. Like, what are you seeing? What are you screaming at the TV that you're frustrated about?
You know what? The Celtics this season, especially, have a tendency to play like Tatum plays. You know, when he's going, they're going, man. But when Jason Tatum's not going, nobody's going.
Right.
So, you know, hey, in a way, you got to give Tatum a lot of credit. I mean, he is the engine that makes this thing go.
For sure.
But you know, the other night he had 5 shots in the second half. You know, just not good enough, and
he had more turnovers and shots in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and to lose the third quarter by 20 and not even, you know, basically not even show up at a halftime.
Yep.
You know, it's disappointing. I mean, especially after what they did to Philadelphia in Game 7, you felt pretty good about it. But then they have nights like tonight and the other night, you know, Game 1. It's hard. It's frustrating. And like I said last time we talked, you know, especially living up here, there's a lot of pressure on the Celtics. Yeah. You know, sports radio. I mean, you know, poor Joe Mazzulla. He just gets hammered up here.
Tell me this. So there's some opinions on this, and I'm curious yours. So you got defensively, right? Previous coach, I'm drawing a blank on his name. Now Rockets, Udoka.
Yep.
Known as a defensive-minded guy, right? They had this presence, and you had these. The thing last year was like you're a defensive player of the year, and then you had Tatum, and you had Brown. You had all these two-way guys. So, and then you add 6 man of the year, Malcolm Brogdon. Yep. So it feels like, you know, you got Robert Williams at the rim. So it feels like you have this defensive-minded team, but yet you have these two-way guys that are really offensive-minded. But I heard someone talking about this. I'm curious your take on it because I haven't watched it enough. But do you feel like they're the same gritty defensive team that they were?
No, they're not, and they're not for a couple of reasons. I mean, the first one is Rob Williams is just so banged up. You know, he missed a lot of time last year, missed a lot of time this year, and you even just watch him, like he's just not the same. You know, I thought he played really well in the playoffs last year. He's not the same. It's almost like he doesn't want the ball inside. I know he finished a couple of times, you know, from Smart the other night, but he doesn't move the same. So that's hurting them. But also, you know, Joe Mazzulla is so obsessed with shooting threes, and I have no problem with it. Listen, I've always wanted to shoot threes when I was coaching. I think shooting threes is great, but you know, I think he's sacrificing at times. I mean, he didn't play Grant Williams a minute in Game 1 against Miami, and played Pritchard a bunch. You know, and afterwards, you know, talked about how, you know, he thought Pritchard could be out there and make some shots.
Right.
To me, like, you know, I love to watch Grant Williams play because, you know, he's a pest. He's a pain in the butt, and he's going to get under your skin. But man, you know, he plays hard, and he's going to give you a lot. So, you know, I thought that was interesting, you know, going with Pritchard over Grant Williams. So it's been interesting. It's been interesting to watch, but hey, listen, as we said, we just got done watching this Denver and LA game 2. What do you think? I mean, that's been Denver's been impressive so far, huh?
Yeah, it's funny. So I was talking to some people. Everybody's kind of like going on this whole thing of, which I didn't get to see the whole game. As you know, we communicated about this, but doing some father duty. I may have some stains on me on my shirt. I have no idea what's going on. We survived it though. My responsibility was taken care of. We got my middle, 2 volleyball. I got home with the youngest. We showered and bathed and fed. So we're good. So that's a victory. I feel like the Nuggets right now. But the part I did see, and people were talking about this beforehand, is like Rudy is going to be this difference maker defensively because now he can guard Jokic, and it frees up Anthony Davis. But when they were saying this, I'm just thinking in my head, like, number one, Jokic loves to pass as much as he does to score. But I think people just forget how good Murray is. And it's easy to forget. He hasn't played in 2 years. And they asked him a question earlier in the playoffs. They said, Bubble Murray. It's like, is this Bubble Murray coming back? He's like, no, this is, you guys just need to respect my game. Like, I don't know how much I need to prove for you guys to know, like, this is what I do. You know, I've been going for a little while. But, I mean, the dude is as good of a scorer offensively, especially in their system, as you can have. So, he's not Damian Lillard. He's not Steph because he doesn't have to be the alpha on the team, but the dude can get buckets. So in my head, I'm thinking like, well, if you've watched the Nuggets and even a little bit, which they don't get a lot of airtime, so I understand why even the announcers and the analysts, they don't even know how to talk about them because they don't see them enough, right? They're not in the main conversation. So I just felt like it was going to be one of those games where everybody's putting so much energy on Jokic, and Murray and others are going to have a big game. And usually guys like that don't have 2 bad games in a row. And I thought he was the clutch difference maker in the fourth quarter. Obviously had 16 plus points. I think he ended up with 18 or 20 in the fourth. So, yeah, I mean, I think the other part of it is, and all coaches know what I'm talking about when I say this, when Anthony Davis made the first 3, Denver Nuggets were happy. And the Lakers were probably just like, I don't know if that's good or not, right? Because then he shoots 2 more, which is exactly what Denver wanted, to give him the transition trail 3 and then give him the second corner 3. Doesn't mean he shouldn't have shot him per se, but when he made the first one, it's really just bait for anybody that's in the scouting report that knows what it's like to prepare against a big man who is capable of making threes, but that's not what he does. That's what you want him doing in crunch time. You want him away from the basket, taking those shots instead of LeBron at the rim or somebody who's a much more capable shooter. So I thought the Nuggets did a great job game planning and kind of baiting him into that. Hey, we'll give you that one, but you're 33%. We won this one, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. I tell you what, and that goes, I remember a bunch of times when I was coaching, one of our guys would make a 3 and we kind of get on him a little bit. They always give, but coach, I was open. There's a reason.
For a reason.
They scouted you. You're open for a reason, man. Yeah. So it's, one of those kind of funny things, but I'll tell you what, though, just watching this Denver series, watching Jokic, and like you said, especially us East Coast guys, we don't get to watch Denver a lot.
No doubt.
But just watching him these last couple games, man, he is so much fun to watch. And
he's unbelievable.
You said it, he almost likes passing more than scoring. He had the triple-double in game 1. I mean, he really is a lot of fun to watch. And, up to nothing now. I mean, I don't see any way that they do not win the West at this point. But
yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, again, I think the other part for this series is LeBron has been the best player on the Lakers, even if he hasn't always statistically. But the pace of this thing is so different for him, in my opinion. And again, I didn't watch the whole game tonight, but he just looks a little bit more gassed. And of course, you're playing in Denver. They'll go home. They got to win 2 at home, though. You can't go split at home. It makes it hard on you. And I don't know that they'll be able to steal one on the road. And I do feel like Denver will eventually steal one of these next 2. And if they do, I feel like Denver's eventually going to get the odds are in their favor. Obviously, you go down 0-2, you don't want to do that. But I just don't know if this Lakers team has quite enough. The pace of play, the depth. You need some other guys to step up, which they have. But you need them to step up when it's crunch time. And I don't know if they have enough help in the crunch time.
Yeah. I'm with you. I am with you.
I got one more thing on this Nuggets team. They remind me of, so I live in Colorado now. I don't even pay attention to as much as the media, but people love them here, as they should. But they remind me of the Mavericks teams that Dirk played on a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Dirk, and you had Jason Terry, and you just had like this chemistry and this flow. But they also they have a lot of San Antonio Spurs to them, like the way that they play. Modern day-ish, but the ball movement, and you can't really focus on one guy and having these different weapons. And I don't know. I think there's something about that bubble year that they didn't get to do it, and they've been injured without it, and they've kind of played without Marita, I think they got a chance. So anyway, I'm excited to see what they keep doing. One thing we didn't talk about yet. We got to talk about the Spurs a little bit since we brought them up.
Mm-hmm.
The potential number one pick. What are you thinking about this? They won the lottery. What's your thoughts?
You know, it's crazy that they won the lottery.
It
You know,
is.
you're gonna go through David Robinson, Tim Duncan. I mean, look at the history they've had with developing, big guys, and you're going to get a guy like this going to Greg Popovich. I mean, it's a good lottery. It's a good lottery win for San Antonio, and I think a lot of the NBA conspiracy theorists are having a field day with this one.
No doubt. They would love the idea of him going to Detroit. I mean, I don't know of the conspiracy theorists, but I would say if you just look at the history of the league, like at one point in time when LeBron's in Miami, Cleveland gets 2 number 1 picks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he trades Wiggins, or LeBron basically trades him for Kevin Love, which leads them to a championship. So them getting the number 1 picks. So you just kind of look at the history of the league, and it's kind of like, but if it's a multi-billion-dollar league, it makes sense if they were going to rig it a little bit to make sure you protect an asset like this number 1 pick. You don't want them going, no disrespect to Detroit. It's not the Detroit of old. Or, Houston has been a mess. I know they hired Udoka now. Sure. So there's been some places that they probably didn't want him to go at this point in time just to protect the asset for the league. Because ultimately he's the most freakish athlete with skill we've ever seen in the history of basketball. At his height and his skill level, it's incredible.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a game changer. So it'll be interesting. It'll be fun
to see. All right, so we got to go a little bit into hoop dirt. We're gonna go first. We'll go Kelvin Sampson.
Yeah.
Then we'll take a timeout and talk a little bit about Adam Nelson's journey.
Oh boy!
And then from there, we'll jump into this Michigan Wolverines thing. We got to jump into that for a little bit. All right, so let's start with Kelvin Sampson. Obviously, done an incredible job at University of Houston.
Yep.
Has been in the league, in the NBA with Milwaukee and also with Houston as well. And had an opportunity to go, I think, to Orlando a handful of years ago. But it was just going to be a rebuild, so why would you want to do it? So the idea that he's confirmed that he's interviewed by Woj and others on Wednesday with Milwaukee. He doesn't need more leverage at Houston, and I'm sure it's probably he's earned the right being number 1 in the nation and having the players he's had and doing what he's done. He's arguably a top 5, if not better, coach in college basketball. He is a Hall of Famer. Many would say he's the best college basketball coach right now. But what do you think about him possibly going to the Milwaukee Bucks? What's the scoop?
I think it's an interesting move. Like you said, he's got a history. He's been with the Bucks. The GM of the Bucks was in the organization when he was an assistant there. They've got a relationship. I mean, I think there's always that lure of the NBA. No matter where you've been there, you haven't been there. He was an assistant there. I just think, guys are always thinking about it, and I think, there's a lot of reports that he has a huge extension on the table. It was offered to him about a month ago that would make him like one of the top 15 highest paid guys in college basketball that he still hasn't signed. So I think, this is probably something that he really is seriously considering if the Bucks are considering him seriously, which I would assume they are since they interviewed him. But it's just that lure of the NBA. I mean, he's done a lot in college basketball, and I think, the opportunity to really become an NBA head coach, and especially like a place like Milwaukee, where I think you do have the chance to win.
Yeah, you got the MVP. Yeah, you got an MVP. You have the core 4 players that you won the title with, and there's still a window there. So if you're ever going to go, anyone that knows Kelvin Sampson and what his fabric and what he's about, I mean, it's about winning championships. It's not just going to play just to play.
Right. Well, no, you're right. You're right. And I think that's, I don't think he'd go somewhere we have to rebuild. I mean, look, when John Beilein took the Cavs job, I mean, I don't think they had anything in place there to win, So that's a different. And I don't think Kelvin Sampson would be interested in something like that. But he's good enough to come make a difference in the NBA, and especially a place like Milwaukee where they're loaded. I mean, they have a chance to win the whole thing in year one if he does take it. So, without a doubt, I mean, I think it's a serious.
Do you like the move if he does it? That's the question. Do you like the move if he does? You don't have to say if you think he is or isn't. Do you like the move if he does it?
I love it. I love it if he does. He's proven that he can coach at the college level. And like I said, that lore of the NBA, guys want to coach in the NBA.
Yep.
You want to coach Giannis. You want to coach a team that's going to win a championship. And, for me personally, I mean, I'd love to see him to be successful in the NBA. I think it's a good move if he does it. Yeah. He's getting older. I mean, there's not going to be many more of these opportunities. So why not take it?
Yeah, a couple of things I like about it. And I think about Billy Donovan. He obviously did everything he could in college.
Yep.
Has done a good job with the Bulls, did a really good job with the Thunder. Couldn't quite get to that pinnacle, but had a team that had the players to do it. But he's lasted in the NBA. He's one of the few college guys that's lasted and really kind of like had success and done it in different ways with different teams. So I love Kelvin Sampson having a chance to do that because I do think he's one of the best basketball coaches. I think for the team, they do miss that grit. And you think about PJ Tucker was on the team when they won it. They really haven't had – they picked up Jay Crowder this year. Didn't quite work out the same. I think he may have had some injuries. But they really haven't had that dog and that edge and that toughness, that's what Kelvin Sampson teams are all about. So you add that with the skill that they already have and having one of the best players in the world, I do like the fit a lot. The other part I like is Kellen Sampson getting a chance to be the head coach at the University of Houston. I think, you look at the way the game is changing. We all see it with the older coaches. NIL is not something that they signed up for. They've been doing it for a couple years, and most of them have no interest in it. The transfer portal, although Houston's had enormous success in it, it's still exhausting. So it just gets to a point where do you want to keep doing that? And if you're going to do that, you might as well be in the NBA where you have a totally different point of leadership as far as that goes. So I like the move. I'm not saying whether he should or shouldn't, but if he does, I think it's awesome on both sides for Houston and for the Bucks.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. And I think you said the best point there is, Kellen Sampson, I think is the obvious no-brainer choice, to get promoted to Houston and would do a good job and deservedly so if he got the job. But, and it's interesting too, I know we've talked about this a lot where, I set the number at 60 and a half Division I.
Oh, yeah.
And we're at 59. And we said like that, the first episode we did, well, how do you get from 59 to 60 and a half this late in the season? Well, there's one way to do it.
Very true.
A couple weeks ago, I thought Bob Huggins would be a way to get up there too, but
he survived. He survived.
But this is how it happens. There's some other stuff. Maybe they could get there. I mean, Rutgers has an open assistant spot right now that could go to a current mid-major, low-major head coach.
Oh.
So so that's what I'm saying. So this is this kind of stuff that's going to shake down late. Which is interesting to watch. So, then selfishly, I'd like Kelvin Sampson to take it so my number gets a little closer. But
how was the number last year? I know we talked about it. How was the number last year?
We went over. It was over. I forget what I said. I think I said it like 58 and a half, and we went over. We went up to about 63. So a little busier.
All right, we're going to talk Caleb Love. I was going to save it, but we're going to go straight to it. Caleb Love, for those that don't know, and if you don't know, then we probably need to talk about your basketball paying attentionness and wokeness. But Caleb Love on the team that goes in national championship for North Carolina really kind of was an up and down player at that point, but had a breakout game in the tournament that kind of put him on a different trajectory as people saw him. So then you have him coming back and you think, well, if he can put that game, if he can do that 2 or 3 or 4 more times, this dude's an NBA type of guy, right? Well, he doesn't do it. So it didn't end up going very well. Their season, they were preseason number 1. They didn't even make the NCAA tournament. It's not his fault. A lot of factors go into that. But there was a sense of that there needed to be a new, fresh start for him and for North Carolina, right? For whatever reason. So then Juwan Howard, who loses his best big man, All American caliber guy to Kansas, comes back, denies the NBA, doesn't go to the NBA the year before. So everybody's excited. You have these two young guys who are projected first rounders, and you have this underachieving season. Now, you've been to Elite Eight and Sweet 16. So Juwan Howard, on the long run, has done well, but the season you went Sweet 16 wasn't great. Now you come back, and this season wasn't great. And then you lose everybody either to the league or to the portal. And then people are getting excited about Caleb Love because he has this pedigree. But then the admissions thing happens. And I've actually seen this movie before when I was in junior college. Beeline recruited a guy that we had and was going to take him, but couldn't take him, and they found out ahead of time because of admissions. So Michigan has this high academic standard, and similar situation. This kid was a 4.24, so he'd been in college for a certain amount of time, and Michigan is only going to take so many credits, blase, blase. Well, last year, my understanding is Terrence Shannon, who ended up going to Illinois in league, is pretty good player, very good player in college basketball, was also going to go to Michigan. Didn't get as public as this Caleb Love one, but ultimately couldn't get him in school. So it's like, okay, learn from that, but this one doesn't feel very good for Juwan Howard. Caleb Love will end up in a great spot because he's a talented player, and at this time in the portal, he's the number one player that you can get. So his stock went even higher than it was when he first came available. So take me through your thoughts on this whole thing with recruiting and then losing the kid in this way if you're Michigan.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, losing him this way. And it goes to show how much goes into coaching that's not just coaching. You need that relationship with admissions, and you need to know this stuff before this gets public.
Yeah.
You need to go to admissions and say, they said there's some classes and arguments.
You really need to know it before he commits.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, you need to. Right. Hey, listen, this is our guy. What do you think? But it's also crazy that Michigan's not going to take him. Like,
it's insane. It raises a little bit of flag of I respect all the academic stuff with institutions.
Yeah.
I'm all about academics.
Yeah.
But when you understand the machine that is big business, that is college basketball, that is like the kid can still come back and get his degree. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It just seems really bad that they took him there. He's going to come, he's signed. And then next thing you know, oh, well, we can't get, it's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's hard.
Something's not adding up. So to me, it's not good for the future of when it comes to portal transfers. Like, the next guy's got to be a little gun shy to say, like, coach, am I for sure going to get in? Like, what's going on? I don't know. It just feels like the momentum. This was a really tough one because the Big Ten is not getting any easier. You got Rhodes is now at Penn State. Not that Penn State was good last year. Big Ten is one of the best conferences, deepest conferences in college basketball. So, yeah, it's not looking good.
No, you're right, and I think that you're right, and that's the problem. If you're Michigan, and Michigan's a good school, but you're taking a kid from North Carolina, also a good school, but you can't get him in. Then what is this saying about other guys? And it's just it's a bad look. It's a bad look for Michigan. It's a bad look for their admissions, and it's a bad look for the staff, unfortunately, because there's a failure to communicate somewhere.
Yeah.
It's a really bad look. So, and like you said, this happens. I've been places where this happens. You don't get a kid in, but it's not at that level.
It's not at that level with that much at stake. Yeah, it's just, and I love Michigan. I'm from Michigan. My mom went to Michigan. I grew up a Fab Five. I'm Juwan Howard, like, all day, all the time, like, rooting for him. I think that's probably why it take it a little bit more like, what is going on? It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign of, and it's probably the first egg on the face of the transfer portal nationally, where it's like, hey, this is the one risk that you may run into, but the player's going to be fine because he's
Yeah.
going to find another home. It's more so on the school that it just comes back and looks, it hurts you for the future. So we hate it for Michigan. We hope, Juwan, you guys can bounce back and still have a great year and still get the right players you need. We're pulling for you. It's just one of those things that had to talk about it because, man, unfortunate. All right, so let's go down the Adam Nelson journey a little bit.
Oh, boy.
So obviously you're in this position now with Hoop Dirt, but prior to this, you were a college basketball coach. A lot of people don't know you were a head coach.
Yeah.
You were a head coach. You were a Division I assistant.
Yeah.
You came up in the game with a lot of guys that are prominent in the business now.
Yeah.
So let's just talk a little bit about your journey. Take us through any part of it. How did you get into it? Where did you end up being a head coach? And what was that like? And then how did you make this transition out?
Yeah, no, I don't love talking about myself all the time, but I know we got a lot of young coaches watching us, hopefully today, especially on the Rising Coaches Network. And yeah, I mean, I spent 20 plus years of my life as a college basketball coach and loved every minute of it and got out a little bit ago. But, similar to what a lot of young guys are doing right now. I mean, I started at the bottom and just grinded my way up. Yep. I was fortunate to, get in as a student and work in some very good places. I worked at the University of South Carolina in the SEC for 2 years with Eddie Fogler, who was a national coach of the year. Probably one of the sharpest X and O's guys I've ever been around. Learn a ton from him.
And now he's a search firm guru, more or less.
Yeah, absolutely, doing a great job. But I was a kid from New England and spent a couple years down south, and didn't love it, so I came back up and spent 2 years as a student at Boston College, and worked for Jim O'Brien, another guy.
Yeah,
national coach of the year. CBS national coach of the year. Great staff. Paul Biancardi from ESPN was on the staff. Now he's a longtime good friend, and I was able to parlay those experiences and really good experiences, doing a lot for those guys, kind of learning a lot of on the court stuff, a lot of video stuff, travel, some great stories. Most I probably can't tell here.
No doubt.
Great stories kind of coming up in the business and coming up, as an, 18, 19, 20-year-old kid seeing, the SEC and back then BC was in the Big East, seeing basketball at that level was amazing. So I was really fortunate enough, to stay local. Pat Scarry, who's now the head coach at Towson. Yep. Pat was a 26-year-old kid, just got the job at Division III Curry College the year I graduated from BC. So he hired me. He was 26. I was 22. We spent 2 years recruiting every kid in New England. And it was the best experience of my life. And Pat and I talk a lot still. And we say, man, like those 2 years when we were young and dumb and didn't know anything better were like the best days. Those are the good old days. We literally ran around New England and recruited. Like if you could dribble and shoot a little bit, we were going to recruit you. And then that's where I learned. That's where I learned how to grind. And I learned a lot. I learned so much from Pat as far as, work ethic and grinding. And really networking, and meeting people. Yeah. And I think that's what, I talk to a lot of young coaches about it. And, and guys will reach out to me because they think, I've got all this scoop on this and that. And I do. And I talk to guys, I know what's going on, but a lot of it's because I've been there. I learned in this business how to work and how to meet people. Really good experience with Pat at the Division III level, was able to parlay that into a couple of Division I jobs. Was an assistant at Holy Cross, was an assistant at Northeastern, 2 really good local spots. Loved it, learned a lot, really liked it at Holy Cross. Patriot League's a great league. I'm really happy to see that they hired Dave Paulson this off season. I really want to see them get it going again. Really special spot out there. But, spent a bunch of years as a Division I assistant. Loved it. And then the time came, I was fortunate to have, the opportunity to get a Division III head job.
Yeah.
And I spent 15 years as a Division III head coach. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. And I loved it. And it was different. And, it's one of those things.
At the same place, 15 years?
No, I spent, so I spent my first job, I was the head coach at Becker College, small school out in Worcester, spent 3 years there.
Yep.
Was still living in the Boston area, so Newberry College, closer to home. Became the head coach of Division III Newberry College, and then got a really good job. Spent 10 years as the head coach at Suffolk University, right in downtown Boston.
Yeah. Great
school. We had some great kids come through. Really. In
other words, you were. It's hard to get the job, so you got a job.
Yep.
And then you parlayed it to another job, which parlayed into another job. So
yeah, I got some.
You don't have to say this, but there has to be success in order to do that, though.
Yeah, enough, and just really kind of better Division III job to better Division III job. And, really loved, finally where I wound up at Suffolk. I spent 10 years there, and really good spot, good people. We had some great guys that played for us.
Yeah.
But man, that Division III life, and we've talked about on the show before, it's a grind. There's a lot to it, especially as a Division III head coach. I mean, you're doing a lot from not just coaching and recruiting and
it's the smallest part of
it. Yeah, exactly. It really is. And and I remember Ken Dempsey's a really good friend of mine. Demps is up at the University of New Hampshire, longtime assistant up there. Now he's the associate AD in charge of basketball, whatever. But I remember when I was about to take the job at Becker, Division III, I was 26 years old, about to become a Division III head coach. Leaving the Division I level, and he told me, he's like, "Hey, just make sure, like, if you leave this level, it's really hard to get back." And as a young, kind of pig-headed guy, I thought, yeah, he's wrong. I'll be back, and never was, so,
Right.
and everyone's journey is different. I give everybody, give a lot of different advice, but I think, looking for me, I think that was one of the toughest decisions I made, was to leave the Division I level, and looking back, maybe not something that I would have done again,
Really? Tell me about that.
Loved my time as a Division III head coach, but it's different, man. Like I said, and part of it, I came up as a young guy in the SEC and the Big East. I mean, you see a lot of cool stuff. I mean, you're flying private planes, you're getting meal money, you're getting so much gear. It's not like that at the Division III level, man. It is, and it's not just the basketball at the Division III level. Like I said, it's driving vans, doing laundry.
It's really just to jump in on you. It's the resources. You have such fewer resources, and not just financial resources, but manpower resources. Right. So when you don't have manpower, the job still has to get done. So it falls on the one or two people that are full-time on staff. And sometimes, did you have full-time assistants, or were you not able to have?
Never had a full-time assistant in my life.
That's part of the thing.
For a little bit, but no full-time assistant, right? So it's all on you. Like, you're the only guy in the office all day. So when stuff comes up, it's on you.
Yep.
It's a lot. And listen, and it's great being the man. It's great being a head coach. But different at the Division III level.
Yeah, let's ask a couple questions. So, advice for I'm gonna go a few different lanes. I'm gonna go first lane, young coach in the business. What's one piece of advice for you? And yeah, this time of year we can talk about working camps and doing that. But what's just a piece of nugget for if you're starting in the business or you're early in your game? What's one piece of advice?
Well, that's a great question. That's what guys kind of hit me a lot, asking questions like that, how to get a job, how to get in. Honestly, the biggest thing is you got to network. You got to get out there and meet people. Listen, every coach I know is an X's and O's guy, right? Everybody knows basketball. Certain guys know a little better. Some guys recruit a little better. Some guys have specialties. But you know what? You got to know somebody to get a job.
Right. Tell me this, Adam, to be more specific, because I think, and I know you have details on this, but so many times younger guys hear the idea to network, but they do it incorrectly because they're trying. Yeah. What is some of the things that are correct ways to network?
You know what? That's a great question. So the thing, so some of my best friends in this business are still guys that I worked camp with 20 years ago. Yep. And working a camp, you're not going there to kiss guys' ass and network. Like, when I used to leave home in June and come back in August, driving, I worked University of Virginia's camp, Kentucky's camp, Pitt, you name it, I was there. But it's more about, those are the guys where you're going to work during the day, but you're going to go out at night and hang out, and you're going to have kind of these shared experiences. Right. And maybe you're going to see them the next summer. And then, just kind of guys that, organically you get to know, and you get to come up.
I think you hit on something right there, and I'm glad you said it, because I have this conversation a lot. I think the organic part is harder now because you don't really go work camps the same anymore. It's not the same culture that it once was, which I think you're 100% right. You were just being yourself, and you didn't have to try to get a job. People now think, oh, I need to network. I need to touch this person so I can get something, or so I can get closer. And it almost takes away the organic nature. Do you have any suggestions for outside of working camp? What would be one suggestion, or if you have two, on, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but just like the organic nature of it?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, honestly, there's a bunch of ways to do it, but obviously hitting the recruiting trail and
Yeah,
being out at events, that's a way to do it.
for
And I
sure.
still remember even as a young guy, um, guys say, at certain events, hey, let's go to lunch. Great, let's go to lunch and hang out.
Yep.
And just kind of getting to know guys on the road, recruiting. However it is. I mean, especially if a young guy's got a job somewhere, get to know the other young assistants in your league.
Yep.
Especially, those are the guys that are going to kind of be moving up with you. Those
Yep.
are the guys that can help you with, a recommendation if a job opens up at their spot. It's just like you said, kind of like the organic. You know what? Honestly, like coaches aren't stupid. They know if you're like intentionally like trying to kind of
Right.
just get their ass to get in, like, fine. Not the best way to do it. You just gotta be around. And to be honest, it's kind of one of the things that we've talked about at Hoop Dirt a little bit is finding some recruiting events where we can kind of get out to a little bit and just sponsor a night at a bar somewhere where guys can just come hang out.
Yeah.
So we're trying to think, down the road here, and hopefully sooner rather than later, where, if there's an event somewhere,
Yeah.
we can find a meeting spot where we can have a good kind of post event, no official program, nothing, literally just
Yeah.
come out, have some appetizers, hang out. And I think there needs to be more of that. And maybe that's kind of our responsibility a little bit.
I agree. I like that. I think I would say two things. I think one, exactly what you just said, getting in environments where it's not always work environments, but you can be yourself and have a chance to professionally grow, network, whether it's coaching conferences, clinics, obviously Rising Coaches. We just came out with our dates for Vegas, the 13th and 14th of July, things like that you can go to have a chance. And even NBA Summer League, even though it's not recruiting, going to those things, investing in yourself to go to those things and just be around. And I think the other part is it's twofold for me. One, you should be good at whatever you're doing, right? So then with people you're hanging around, if you're not any good at your job and you're hanging around people and you're just like rubbing elbows, it doesn't do you any good because people are eventually going to find out like, oh yeah, who's that guy? Like, yeah, you don't want to mess with him. And it's over. So you have to have a reputation of at least being a worker or being a person who's trustworthy. Like you have to have that at coming in the door. It's almost like being a person that's trying to get on scholarship. You got to play hard in order to have a chance to get in the door. Like that's the prerequisite. So I think that goes without saying, but I want to say it anyway because sometimes people think you can like skip step to do it. And I think the other part is also twofold. Like you don't want to be thirsty. You don't want to be like nobody wants to go. No girl at any party or any situation socially wants to go hang out with the guy or go on a date with the guy that's trying too hard. So like have enough security in yourself to even though you want to learn, like don't try so hard. Just be natural because that turns people off the
Well
same
said.
way. Same way it can turn. And I think the other second part of that is I think it's important to try to add value to other people. Like you have to like so for example, if somebody's talking about Hoop Dirt and it's just like this kind of random like, oh man, I click on your stuff all the time and like that's cool to start, but if eventually you want to get a job with Hoop Dirt, like have some type of value that you're bringing that you've done some research or hey, I love how you guys do this, this, and this. And I saw this year your coach of the year for D2 was the same guy as last year, man. That guy's really, you know what I mean? Be invested enough that you can actually make an impression and like something that may be cool that may say, hey, I saw this one thing that you guys do that somebody else does something similar. Like, I don't know if you ever thought about doing this, but maybe you guys could do that too. And it's something it's an offer. They may not take it, but at least it's like, hey, this kid's paying attention or this younger coach or this higher level coach. Because I think sometimes people just think, and sometimes it's players. Like when you're a D3 guy, you can go to events that D1 guys can't go to. So get a list of guys that, hey, these guys played well and send it to a couple guys and say, hey, I don't know if you're looking at these guys or on these guys on your radar, but you just have to find ways to add value because at the end of the day, you're going to get hired because somebody thinks that they like you, yes, that you're not turning them off because you're trying to do too much, and that you can add value in some type of way to their program. It doesn't mean you're going to get hired to get players or hired to, but hey, I like this guy. I like his energy. I like his hustle. I think he can help fill a spot here. And that may not be your ending niche, but at least it gets you in the door. So I think so many times so many guys do it wrong. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation because I do think it's important to have this conversation because, yeah, just the word networking is so like, it's so gray that a lot of guys are like, well, I'm just networking. It's like, nah, but you're networking wrong.
Right.
Like that's going to get you eliminated. You know, it's like somebody said this and I'll pass it back to you. Recruiting. I remember who it was, but I won't say his name. But he said, Burton, recruiting is not about evaluation. It's about elimination. I'm crossing guys off so I know who we can't get and who I don't want. And then I have a pool left.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what jobs are.
Yeah. No, it is. And I agree with you. Listen, 100%. I mean, you know, and I think, like you said, I mean, you got to bring something to the table, you know, without a doubt. Like you need to be marketable. You have to have some value that you're going to bring to a program.
Right.
But you know,
and it starts as simple. I'm glad you said about marketable. It starts as simple as like how you look. Like you can say it doesn't matter, but if Adam Nelson is the head coach at Boston College, you have to represent Adam Nelson and Boston College. So how you dress, how you shave, how your hygiene, how you communicate. It's not about half the time people are trying to figure out who they don't want more than they figure out like just don't kill yourself. Don't have those reasons why, like not shaving or not having a haircut or kind of being sloppy in how you dress or you're partying too hard and that reputation comes back. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. And you know, especially, well, not even, you know, at whatever level you're at, you know, a guy is not going to want to hire someone who's going to cost him his job eventually.
No question. That's say that again, please. Say that again, please.
No, well, you know, especially because being a head coach, it's so hard to become a head coach, right?
It's your dream job and you get it.
It is, right? So, right, I'm not going to hire an assistant coach who has a chance to cost me my job.
No question.
And so with that, you know, we talk about networking and doing the right thing, you know, especially these days, social media is so important. If you can't say the wrong thing, you have to make sure your social media is like good. And I say this a lot, you know, I've talked to guys a lot who you know, guys bounce guys off me all the time. And some guys will back and say like, oh, I took a peek at the social media, can't do it. You know, a couple of things will eliminate you. And I know there's some knuckleheads out there that'll say, oh, it's my social media, I can say what I want. Hey, good luck. You know, that's why you're not getting a job. And that's why you're kind of grinding away at the same kind of crappy places you've been. But, you know, social media is so important these days, and it can work wonders for you. You know, there's some guys that are great on social media. There's some small college coaches that have huge followings on social media, and it's helped them advance in their career. It's helped them get noticed. But on the other hand, there's some guys that are terrible on social media that will not get them jobs. And really for that reason, because
the gift and the curse.
Exactly. And if I'm a head coach, you know, I don't want my assistant coach tweeting something stupid that's going to get me fired. So, you know, that's a big red flag. And, you know, coaches these days are becoming a little bit more savvy, you know, about that. And like I said, honestly, you know, a lot of guys reach out to me before they make hires, whether they want to admit it or not, but they will.
And I think it happens more so now, even for both of us. Like I haven't been in space as long as you have, but when you're in these places where you're in the business, but you don't have to have a bias towards one thing or the other, and you're interacting with coaches, you know the business because you've been in it. There's a credibility and understanding there. It's like, okay, this guy's in the fabric of the business, so let's ask. Doesn't mean that you're a search firm but you never know, and all the networking matters. So I think to say what you're saying, to add to what you're saying, a new thing that I've been talking about consistently, and I believe in this to the end of time, like you have to figure out how to be safe as a hire. And sometimes you're trying to be a home run hire and prove how great you are at all these things. I can recruit, I can coach on the floor better than anybody. And all of that is good and well, but if they feel like there's a risk in hiring you, they will end up not hiring you and take someone who's less talented, less proven, has less of a track record because they're less risky. And it may sound crazy, and I have these conversations with people often and more often now, but I'm like, safety's at the top of the list. They have to know that, like you said, they got their dream opportunity or they got their head coaching opportunity and they're working to get the dream opportunity, whatever the case may be. They're not going to allow anything to get in the way of that. Now, if someone's desperate enough and they're on their last leg, they may say, I don't even care. Then I'll hire somebody who's just can get something done fast to save themselves. But as a general rule, man, especially now, like you said, not just social media, but with how much, not just your own social media, but the way that news travels in social media now.
Oh yeah,
phones. I mean, look at what just happened with Huggins. We just talked about it. Like he's
Yep.
a head coach and a vet and a pro.
Yep.
And it almost cost him his job, you
Yep.
know? So yeah, all that stuff matters. So I think that the safer you can be as a candidate, yeah, you got to be trustworthy and you got to be hardworking and you got to be proven, you got to get some stuff done, but you also just got to be not as risky.
Yep.
Simple.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you.
All right, we're going to transition. Been an awesome show. We've been in our bag. We got more to come. We'll talk next time about head coaching. We'll get into that because we also have we get to be behind the scenes of a little bit of stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Recommendations. I'm gonna go different route this time. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about a place or a thing, but I got habits. Okay, I'm gonna go 2.
Okay.
Social media. Sometimes you got to put it down and literally put it like. So for me, this is one for me. I stole it from Dream Dowling, who's a very good friend and brother of mine. But I never forget when I saw him take like a week off, and I was like, "Yo, what is that? People do that?" And as somebody who's as active as he is, I was really surprised by it. And this was probably 3 years ago, in the beginning of the pandemic, and I was like, "What is that?" And so I tried it. Man, it was a game changer. And I just felt like I actually got ownership of my brain back. And actually, Adam Gordon from Rising Coaches CEO, he asked me the other day, or probably 2 weeks ago, he posted about, hey, has anybody ever done this? I'm thinking about doing it. Like, what's the benefit? And I didn't respond. I just texted him like a paragraph of like how important. So there's one time I did a month, one time I did 2 months of not so much not ever looking at it. I put myself at like a 30-minute probably per week is probably what I had, but I didn't post at all. But every now and then I probably have like, maybe it's 30 minutes a day that I had like an average or 15 minutes a day. I didn't delete the whole app like Jareem does. But yeah, man. And I still do it to this day. I take a day of the week and I try not to post, sometimes 2 days, just to let like, yeah. So that's one. The other one is like actually go outside and go on a walk. I know it's crazy, but like sometimes we're going to make phone calls as coaches or as just like literally be outside in the fresh air for 30 to 40 minutes. It does a lot. That's all I got. That's all I got.
Hey, those are great recommendations. And I got to think about that social media one because I am way too
it's addicting,
overloaded on social media.
And if you haven't seen this movie, it'll change your perspective. It may not change your life, but Social Dilemma. Ooh, it is powerful. It's a movie about social media and how what it basically does to your brain, the dopamine, the all the adrenaline that you get from the hit of the like or the interaction, and like your brain literally gets fixated on that. So anyway, it talks about like how basically the people in the background that are pushing different stuff to you to keep you engaged. That's their whole mission is to keep your attention. So it's really good. Social Dilemma on Netflix. I'm not a what's the word? They're not giving me a marketing deal, but I will advertise for them anyway.
I like it. I just wrote it down. I'm gonna
really
watch
it. Really good.
I like it.
Okay, you got your turn. I did take 2. I didn't mean to.
All right, here's my recommendation. I'll give you. And you know what? Here's my recommendation, and it's based on a couple of things we talked about today.
Yeah.
So A, getting outside, right? Important.
Yes.
But B, you said earlier, coaches need to like represent themselves, right, in a positive way and kind of look the part, right. So here's what I've been addicted to lately. And listen, I'm gonna sound like an old guy because I know a lot of people are always using this, but Strava, it's a great app.
Yeah.
So I love to run, right? I try to run almost every day.
Talk about Strava. Let's go.
but Strava has really kind of kept me going. So, it connects to your watch if you want it. You can do it manually, whatever. It tracks all your runs, right? But it'll show you the route, boom, boom, boom. So it keeps me motivated to get out, right? Because I want to beat yesterday's time. I see my route. But the best thing about Strava, you can share. So, like, I have 2 of my kids who use Strava. So I can see their runs and like it, and they can see mine and like it. So, like, I love when I come back from a good run and one of my kids will, comment on my thing, like, great time today, whatever. So
I like it.
It's like motivating, right?
Especially that's a cool way to interact with your kids too. That's pretty dope.
Oh, it's awesome. Like, they give me the thumbs up. Sometimes, like, they'll go on a run and post a picture. Or, like, I went on a run the other day. I took a tumble, but I took a picture of my bloody arm and posted it. Awesome. Laughed at me. But again, so as a coach, right? My philosophy has always been, like, I want to be able to be out on the court and do stuff with the guys, right? And you got to look like, you got to be able to do that. Or, I got to walk into a gym and kind of look like, I can coach basketball, like, I'm in shape, and I'm going to tell these guys to go run. I better be able to do it too, So, for young guys, man, download Strava, take advantage of it. It's motivating. It's a lot of fun. It's free. I mean, there's a paid version too if you want all your stats, but I get enough of them. It keeps you active.
Like, I'm challenging myself on some new fitness things. So Strava may become a part of it. I might have to talk a little trash with my wife on it. I like that.
There you go. Yeah, no, it's good. It is good. And like you said, especially with some of my older kids who are gone and out of the house now, it's a good way to kind of keep in touch, and what they're doing, they know what you're doing, and it really is fun. But that's my recommendation for the day.
I love it. What an episode. Season 2, episode 3 is in the books. Dropping the mic. We'll see you next week for episode